for the fofo. This for the fofo. For the city and the back roads, got a whole county full of them ghosts. All from the fofo with that gold. Hey, this just for Beulah County. Yeah, right on your head like a bounty. Said I'm from Beulah, they know I'm from Beulah, so let me just go talk about my surroundings. Shout out them Eagles that's out in Geneva, them Lakers, oh yeah, that's Palmerton and Valley. We from the football chasing these goals. If you in the way, you get taken out proudly. And Jefferson soaring with Falcon. Said that you working, you ain't really working. You see that we working, our hands got a callus. Putting in reps till we moving some mountains. Edgewood got warriors, they won't allow it. Me, I bleed green and gold, they know defeating no dragons who run the whole city, you wildin'. And they really doubt it. And next we gon' go to Grand Valley. Work like a horse and don't show no remorse. So opponents keep coming, we stack them and pile them. Yeah, and kinda got flooded with Spartans. As soon as they pull up on game day, we park them. Cause we number one in that spot, ain't a bargain. Man, shout out St. John, they be ballin' like Harden. This for the football. This for the football. This for the football.
All right, everybody, welcome to the mid-season special right here on ysnlive.com. This is the 440 Sports Show, and I have got some company tonight. I've got the voices of Ashtabula County joining me tonight. It is going to be a blast to be able to talk about some basketball. It's been a very full winter this year. We're right here about at the halfway point throughout the season, and some seasons are going the way I think the teams wanted them to go, and some teams are looking for that mid-season reset. We're going to get into that and a whole lot more as we get this show going. But let me introduce my esteemed panel tonight that I am so excited to get to join me on the show tonight. These right here, ladies and gentlemen, are the voices of Ashtabula County, minus one. He'll be in here at some point, I think, but we'll get going, moving our way around the horn. Starting off, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, one of the newest members of the team this year, James Westover.
How's it going?
Right next to him is a man that everybody knows, and one of the most motivational stories I think I've ever seen. A man who does not take no for an answer in anything. That is Larry Jennings, Larry Legend, as I like to call him.
Sammy, how you doing?
Oh, I'm pumped. Listen, I got you guys on here. It's going to be a fun night. We get to talk about some hoops and act all goofy, and who can ask for more than that? I've got one half of that Laker Zoo crew tonight, and that's Chad Paul joining us all the way from South County and Andover.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Sam. I know George will be in here shortly, so we look forward to talking some basketball with all you guys.
And then, batting cleanup for us, it's the King Eagle, the big bad eagle, Scott Demos, baby, joining us on the show.
How's it going, boys? This is exciting. Talk some hoops.
So, we'll get things started, I guess, right away. We've had a lot of basketball played already, both boys and girls. We'll kind of work our way around the horn here, but, what are some of the teams or even players that are kind of sticking out to you early in this season? We'll start with you, James.
So for starters, players for me, for Grand Valley, obviously it's the dynamic duo Carter Turk, a.k.a. Turk Sanity, as I like to call him, and Captain Sully Schultz over there. But there was a newcomer for the first 11 games of the season by the name of Evan Skurdick. He was a transfer from Mentor, and for me, he was a huge part of the success in those first 11 games. They had some tougher games, such as like Smithville and Perry. For me, when I watched him, he just was better when the competition was better. For example, when they played a team that, didn't have some things going, such as, Chalker, I think he only had like 4 or 5 points, but then when he played a county team such as Lakeside or Perry, he was scoring 24, 25 points. Basically, the bigger the spotlight, the bigger he was. And what was your other question? So players and...
Yeah, so just basically players or teams that have kind of stuck out, and you talked about, Skurdick, and I think the expectations for Grand Valley this year were high. I mean, you're talking about a team that accomplished so much last year. And while they did lose some guys, they're bringing back the big, the Tower of Orwell that is Carter Turk. And, that kid can really play some basketball. And it's been exciting watching them throughout most of this year. We'll move right along over to Larry. Larry, who are some of the teams or players that have stuck out to you?
Well, as you know, I've been doing the Edgewood home games, and I've been doing the girls and the boys. And both teams, they got winning seasons so far. The boys are at 7-6, or 3-3 in the conference. They've had some tough times. Going back into the football season, Mason Thor had some injuries. He was looking to be a key player, a key role player, especially at center as a big man. And he's got some knee issues. And from my understanding, he did play a couple games, but he, from what I understand, is out for the season. And I'll tell you what, the guy who transferred from Lakeside, Paul Seiler, has really stepped up in that role. He, from his first couple games when he started, he has just progressed into a beast mode, getting the rebounds, getting the block shots. But the real leaders on that team, to me, they really live and die by the 3-point shot. And you got Gino Measler, you got Logan Mezak, and you got Dallas Patterson. Dallas Patterson, as we know, he's a sophomore, young guy. He's got the moves. He's got springs in his legs. He's somewhat inexperienced, but he does a really good job. So they got their games when they're hitting those threes, and they're doing well, and they need those threes. Overall, you always hope that, I always hope, because I've had the kids playing, Tony Hall and so on. So I've been an Edgewood fan here since they've been in school. So you always hope that they do well in their conference. Right now, though, Madison is looking pretty good in that conference, the Chagrin Valley Lake Division. But they still got some tough games coming up. They had a big game just this past week with Geneva, which in their first game, Geneva beat them by 1 point at Geneva, and I thought that they'd give them a better game this past week, but they ended up losing that one 66-52. On the girls' side, they're 9-6 right now, and they're actually 6-2 in the conference, and they had a chance to tie up. And again, we got Madison at the top there. Was I even right on that, boys? Wait a minute. Let me look at that real quick.
Yeah, the boys in the CVC Lake right now, but the race is between Geneva and Lakeside.
You're right. Not Madison. Madison's 2 and 3. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the girls, but yeah, between Geneva and Lakeside. But Edgewood the boys did beat Lakeside their last time out. But so, there's still an outside chance there, but right things would have to happen. For the girls, though, they're 9-6, 6-2 in a conference. They played Madison. That's what it was. They played Madison this past week, and would have had a chance to win that. But it did not happen. But over there, you've got Annie Johnston, who is just she's a ball handler deluxe. She's making the no-look passes. She's making the steals. You've got, of course, you got Faith Venzel out there, and
Carly Cray.
Yeah, well, of course. I'm not going to forget about Carly Cray. She's been the lead scorer for the team. I don't know what she's averaging, but I'd imagine it's probably in the low 20s. So she's doing well. So again, not a stellar season, but at 9-6, you can't complain for the girls. So yeah, that's pretty much Edgewood.
We're going to move right along to our man, Chad Paul, down there in Andover. Chad, you guys have gotten to see, some different teams than what the CVC Lake guys are getting to see. Who are some of the guys or teams that are standing out, even if it's the PV Lakers?
So I'll start with Maplewood. We went and we I wish George was here. We refer to it as the fever dream because it never happened, and that's how we're gonna approach that. But Maplewood was sneaky good, in my opinion. One of the biggest things I think that they had going for them was just hustle. Winning every 50-50 ball and just getting after it and playing hard. I think most teams, if you lack talent, you make up for it and hustle, and you get those advantages, and they took complete advantage of it. And a few unsuspecting guys able to shoot from well beyond the 3-point line. And in our case, with Chase Geisinger being our only true big man, one of their bigs was a deep 3-point threat, and that pulled Chase Geisinger out of the middle and gave them a pretty good advantage and kind of worked us over on the boards and moved the ball really well. We just got to see Matthews Mustangs the other night, and welcome to the show, George. You can chime in anytime here too.
Hey.
And George and I talked about it on the broadcast, another team that was just really gritty, hustled on every play, really moved the ball extremely well. There was quite a few shots that didn't drop for them, and if they had, the end of that game could have been a different story, and anybody that was paying attention ended up being a 2-point game, and that was a big testament to how well the Matthews Mustangs team played. Who else stood out? Earlier on in the season, I got to call the game with James. Grand Valley stood out. They jumped on the board real quick. We were slow to the game. We didn't show up till about the second quarter. Names that he had mentioned, like Sully, Turk, that was a great bounce back game for him. I know he struggled a little bit in the Fairport game, but he came out ready to play against us, and he was lighting it up. He looked really good. I don't know, George, any other teams come to mind for you?
I mean, as far as rattle off who you talked about already.
So basically, the question was, not early. I guess it's midway through this season. Who are some teams or some players that have kind of stood out?
Well, obviously with PV, we're privy to a few. Justin Britton, Geneva. If we're talking PV, pretty much we like all of them. Britton, there's a particular point guard that lives in this household by the name of Dubik that I'm particularly fond of. But if we're going to look at overall, obviously I think he does a great job too. I'd be a horrible father if I didn't think that. But taking the hat off, I think he does a great job for one of the young guys in the county coming in. You got to look at Grand Valley, Sully, Turk, Easton. Those guys are killing it. You go to Edgewood, and obviously, they're in some of a shakeup right now. But all those guys out there, Patterson and Triplin and Mezak, those guys are true and true. Everybody knows who's who. You go out far county, and you'd be remiss to talk about Caden Proy. The kid is dropping 30 and 25 a game. So, if there's any teams that stand out right now, I think Geneva has just been killing it. They've had a tough schedule, and they've been showing that they're the real deal.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's a perfect segue to our the next person I'm going to ask the question to, which is the King Eagle himself, Scott Demos. Scott, early on, midway through this season, who are some teams that have kind of stuck out, or players that have stuck out to you?
Obviously, our boys in Geneva are playing well, and they do it as a unit. Caden Proy, he's the obvious leader. He can flip a switch and score 13 real quick. But you've got some real shooters, Antonio Rivera and Nate Cesar. When those guys get hot, I don't know anybody shoots better in the county. And then they're just a really scrappy team that hustles for all the loose balls. They pride themselves on defense, and actually lowest points against job by them. But outside of the Eagles, I was very impressed with Terry Brown over there in Lakeside. I was at one game and he had his own personal block party. He had 9 blocks himself, almost a triple double that day. Not a lot of scoring, facilitating. He just really stands out as a team, that kind of been going through a lot of struggles, and he's kind of keeping them together there. But our Eagles are primed and ready for a good run here. I'm excited to see what they can do. And on the girls' side, Emily Vossler, she's the new coach over there. She's been there about 3 years now. She's got that program going in a great direction. The girls are 3rd in the conference. Very, very young team. Only one senior that's leading the squad. But somebody to look out for on the Geneva squad actually is Isabel Stocker, a freshman. And the girl can shoot. She can pass. I look forward to what she does in the future here, but real exciting basketball so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to take in just a ton of St. John. I've gotten quite a bit of Lakeside and some Jefferson, throughout this year. And there's a lot of people who stand out. I think speaking from the St. John perspective, I think Jack Collins, that transfer that they got, he's a big guy. We call him Captain Jack out there. He's made a huge difference in the middle for them. But St. John is still, it's very much a team you can tell that's still trying to kind of get their chemistry to work. These are none of these guys have really started games together until this year, and it kind of shows. I mean, they've got some sharp shooters out there. I think Gus Petros, when he's on, is one of the most dangerous shooters in the area. Chase Newsome, I think, gets to the hoop extremely well, and he can distribute. And when they've got things working, we've seen where St. John has been able to play very, very well. But when, it only takes one grain of sand, it seems like, in the gears to kind of get them off, and then it takes them a little bit of time to kind of catch back up. And that's why the record is where it's at. There's some games out there where, I'm not saying anything that's a state secret here. I'm not saying anything offensive. There's stuff points that they've left on the board. One thing that sticks out to me, I think county-wide, I can say this comfortably. I think free throw shooting this year has been awful. We are seeing long periods of teams, and I'm not talking about St. John or Grand Valley, I'm talking about everybody. You're looking at those sheets that we get at the end of the game, and there's a lot more empty circles than filled in circles, and that's something where the free ones are never free, but man, you got to get those points. You look at all the close games that we've had this year where, free throws have genuinely made a difference. Over on the girls' side, the girls this year have been very, very talented. I do have to say, I mean, not a county team, but Maplewood, one of the best girls basketball teams I've seen in the last couple of years. Very, very talented. And everybody who's run into Maplewood, man, it's a buzzsaw. Those girls can flat out play. But we've got girls who are standing out. Larry talked about Edgewood a little bit earlier, and Carly Cray is certified on the court for them this year. She's been awesome all year. Chloe Turk over in Grand Valley. She's been a standout. So there's lots of players who are trying to kind of find their way. I look at a St. John, their girls team, which is made up of 3 freshman starters. So, learning to cut your teeth against, 4-year letter winners is not the easiest thing to do. I think they're doing a great job with it. But overall, it's been exciting. I mean, my one gripe, like I said, the free throws have been – maybe I'm looking at it wrong, and I'll take your guys' perspective on this as well. But the free throws seem to have been – they've changed games. They've genuinely changed games.
No, when we were – George and I were sitting by each other. I believe it was the Maplewood game. We're like pulling our hair out. Like, how are you missing your free throws? I don't know. Are the days of shooting 100 free throws after practice gone? Do they just not do that anymore?
I think I restate every broadcast. Free throws are genuinely one of the most underlooked parts of the game because you look at a close game. that's decided by 2 or 3 points. That could be 2 or 3 or 4 missed free throws that could decide a different outcome. And I do have the privilege of watching one of the better free throw shooters in the area, in Carter Turk. So just
Is that a flex?
you know,
Well, I'll tell you what.
Flex.
I mean,
I'll tell you, the thing with Carter Turk that I think, one of you always hear the term coach's kid, right? Like he's a coach's kid and they play like that. And one of the things, some people look at it as a negative. I've always looked at it as a lot of times you're getting what you're seeing in Carter Turk, which is a technically sound basketball player. Now that doesn't mean you're going to score 50 a night. That doesn't mean you know what I mean? But when the big ones count, like put it this way, if there's a tech called, Turk's going to the line. You know what I mean? You want the guys who are going to be able to knock it down. And again, I will take a good free throw shooting team over a 3-point shooting team all day long because, as Larry was talking a little bit about Edgewood, when you have a team that kind of lives and dies by that 3, sometimes you're shooting at a hula hoop, sometimes you're shooting at a golf hole. And the nights where it's not going in, everything else matters.
Sammy, me and you did that Jefferson Edgewood game, and as you stated, we watched Edgewood. I think they made 1 3 in the first quarter, and they didn't make another 3 till the end of the game when Jefferson was already up by 15, and all they were doing was shooting threes, and they were leaving them open. They just were not knocking them down. I think that's one of the issues with being a 3-point shooting team is when you're not hot, you're not hot. So only way to say it.
Yeah, and you bring up Jefferson. I think that's a great segue. We're gonna go through some schedules with these teams. Jefferson obviously running at 4-7, and I can honestly say from my perspective, personal, it was a bit of a surprise for me. Jefferson comes back and yes, they lose one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific, 3-point score or prolific scorers in general this area has ever seen in Anthony Cavetta. But it's not like they were downgrading. You know what I mean? I look at a guy like Joel Navarro, who is very, very capable of leading this team, and it's a team that has had a bit of a slow start, and they're starting to pick up. And sometimes you have to get that first win. Sometimes you have to get that first win to kind of get things moving. They take a loss to Chardon early in the year. I feel like I'm on the wrong year here. No, we're good. We're there. Lost to Chardon. They get a win over Lakeside. Lost to Geneva. Lost to Madison. Mayfield. Lakeside gets their get back with a big win. Crestwood, a loss. And then, you look at the Conneaut game, and then they go on a 2-game win streak. They've got a long hill ahead of them because, they've got teams like, Geneva. They've got Madison ahead of them. They're going to, toward the end of the year, they're playing Grand Valley and they're playing Edgewood. And that Edgewood, I don't want to play Edgewood. I don't want to play Edgewood at the end of the year. I don't want to be Edgewood's tournament tune-up because that's when they fire up. But what are some of the things for the guys who have watched Jefferson that have stuck out to you guys? We'll start with you, Jay.
I mean, like you said, Joel Navarro. I think coming into this year, everybody was like, who's going to be their guy? I always was thinking, well, you still got Navarro. He was always known for his defense, being that 3-and-D guy, just kind of a role player out there. But we both know he has the shot. He can score at all 3 levels, and he's done just that. For example, we had that 30-point game against Lakeside. But the other question was, who was going to kind of be the sidekick? Who was going to be the Robin? And George Desura, to say the least, he can hit that thing from downtown. I mean, I think every single game I've watched him play, he's had over 10 points and at least 2 or 3 threes. And not only just is he hitting his threes, he's been able to get inside, get those get backs, and he's also one of the better free throw shooters I have seen. At the end of the game against Edgewood, Joel Navarro, he fouled out with 4 minutes to go. And unfortunately, the only person Edgewood could foul with was Measle because they already had 3 starters foul out. And the person he was on was Desura. And I think Desura went 6 for 6 at the end of that game to put Edgewood away. As you said, they had a rough start going 1-6, but they've been 3-1 in their past few. I think they are a dangerous team on any given night, and obviously, I think an upset like Edgewood, who I believe was pretty favored heading into that game, just kind of shows.
Well, I mean, realistically, that win over Edgewood is what opened up the CVC Lake. Because if Edgewood wins that game, I think the CVC Lake, goes back to about a 3 to 4 team race at the top there. But with Edgewood taking the loss there, it opens the door, for Lakeside to kind of swoop in there and potentially win a conference title. Larry, any thoughts on Jefferson this year?
Well, I really haven't seen them play other than the game that was at Jefferson. I watched you guys, I watched the broadcast. I was surprised. And again, if you can't make those threes and you don't have the real strong inside game, like you said, you got to knock down those foul shots, and you got to make 30-40% of the threes you take, and they haven't been doing that.
How about from the Zoo Crew down there in Andover? What are your thoughts on Jefferson?
We hear all kinds of things. I mean, what we hear is basically they get hot and then they get cold. So, just from a few of the insiders there, I think they're starting to turn the tide internally. And I think kind of like what James was talking about earlier, meshing together well and finding out who plays what role. Obviously, Navarro is a good talent down there, and obviously they're going to rely on him down the stretch. But I heard that now they're starting to come together as a team, as opposed to the beginning of the season where it was just a little bit helter-skelter. And obviously, I mean, they've done a good job. I mean, the whole county is essentially beating up on each other. I mean, you can't say anybody's better than anybody at this time. I think it's at a specific point in time when you play each of these teams. And just look what happened. Jefferson goes to Edgewood, and they beat them. And
I got to agree with you there. I think this year, way more than last year. When you look at the games that are on the schedule right here on ysnlive.com, if you want to check out the games, but it really, realistically speaking, these Ashtabula teams, there isn't one team that no matter what you think is going to win every, game they're going against. Obviously, they're going to be heavily favored over some because some teams are just struggling. But this year, there's a lot of parity. I think we lost strong senior classes last year, and it's showing. And with Jefferson, it's easy to talk about Cavetta. It's real easy to talk about Cavetta. The county's all-time leading scorer, but it wasn't just him. You're losing a fantastic point guard in Padilla. A 2-year starter for them. You're losing a guy in Dylan Beebe, who was a knockdown shooter and a defender there. That's why Joel Navarro this year kind of having to embrace that role. And you've seen it. He's had 30-point games this year. But it's the best and the worst thing about high school basketball, right? It's that transition that if you don't like this team, just wait 4 years. It's going to have a completely different look. Any thoughts on your side, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are nailing it on the head. It came down to leadership, right? I mean, Jefferson lost a lot of key leaders last year, a lot of guys in that locker room that would kind of pull things together. And I think it's kind of taken them to this mid-season here to get their stride. But you're starting to see that from players like Navarro, kind of guiding them in the right direction. So I think it's coming together for them. I think they need a couple more pieces in place, but, they're making a strong run here in the middle of the season.
Yeah, and we're going to move along here as we're talking about the Jefferson Falcons, and we'll talk about one of their recent opponents in Edgewood. This is Larry's area of expertise, as he talked about at the beginning of the show. But what's most interesting, I think, for me, looking at Edgewood is it's kind of the same deal that they've got at PV, where I think there are teams in the county right now that would look at 7-6. And be thrilled with the direction of their team. Yeah. And then there are teams, again, like PV, like Grand Valley, and like Edgewood, who look at 7-6, and they're like, it's time to strap up and get back to basketball because that's what they do. But, Edgewood is another team losing guys who made big-time plays for them. And they've seemingly been rebuilding for the last 2 years. You know what I mean? You look at, the Ernst era over at Edgewood and how absolutely dominant they were, and they're still trying to find those guys who are going to step into those roles. I think it's a huge loss to lose the hammer that is Mason Thor. You know what I mean? He was, I know you're not supposed to have favorites, but he is one of my favorite bigs in the county.
He's not silent.
You know what I mean? He's one of my favorites in the county because he is a throwback. You know what I mean? He was a true back to the basket center and embraced that role. And you've seen that from that kid, even from the time he was young. And this year was really supposed to be the party. And unfortunately, knees take it away from us.
I will tell you this, keep your hopes up a little bit, but I've had conversations with him, and he said he hopes to play on senior night. So we might be able to see him one last time.
Shefty with the exclusive.
James Shefty with the exclusive.
Bombshell, boom. But yes, he told me he would like to come back and play senior night, even if it's just for a quarter, but he would like to go out there and get a couple more buckets. So,
but you talk about Edgewood and how they start the year this year in a nail-biting win over PV. And I'm telling you, when it comes to county basketball, I don't know that there's any other way to beat PV. You either lose by one or win by one, but it's never going to be a blowout. They go out there, they beat a very scrappy Maplewood team. They run into a very well-coached team in Berkshire. They lose to Geneva, and we'll get to Geneva and why I think Geneva could be, if not the most underrated team in the county, definitely the second most underrated in the county. I've got my personal belief on who I think that is. Wins over Madison, Conneaut, St. John, a loss to Grand Valley, who's one of the best in the county. A win against Lakeside at home, 67-57. And the way that win happens was absolutely incredible. I'm not going to steal his thunder. Larry, talk us through that game.
Well, there are games when you see a team that is just gritty and aggressive, and this was one of those games. Everybody was out there. You see Czar Triplin blocking shots, Dallas Patterson, Paul Seiler, Logan Mizak. They were all playing defensively in a way that, frankly, I was thrilled to see it because they don't see that in every game. And I'm not saying that they slack off because they don't, but it would just seem they were, it was personal, I think. It's Lakeside. Come on,
It's the battle of the bridge.
Yeah, the battle of the bridge, absolutely. And again, I forget who I talked to after that game. I said, but hey, you guys know each other. And so it's more than just another game. You've grown up with each other, and the way transfers have been, and so on. It's these guys. They want to show that hey, if I go from one school to the other, I'm going to show you that I did the right thing. And it was just a great game. It really was.
But what sticks out to me in that game is if you were watching it on YSN Live, like I was. I usually have a game kind of propped off in the corner, even when I'm calling. Lakeside has a big lead in this game going into the late part of the game. And it was like a 17-0, 18-0 run that Edgewood goes on. And it's the second time they've done that. They tried it. It almost worked for their benefit against Jefferson at Jefferson. They go on a hellacious run at the end of the game. And I'm starting to wonder, is this just not the type of team that Edgewood is? Do you get lured into thinking you're going to win, and then they go in for the kill shot? You know what I mean? It's a little Danny Russo in the Karate Kid. They're going swan kick.
Yeah, it reminds me of when my grandson was wrestling. He'd always go out there and get taken down, and the next thing you know, the other guy's on his back. It's you hate to see that. You want to see him go out from the opening whistle and pound it on them. But Yeah, they get their backs to the wall and they're like, okay, let's do something.
Yeah, and I think, we talked a little bit about it already, the loss of Mason Thor, and you've got a transfer over in Paul Seiler, who I think everybody immediately expected him to kind of be in that role. But I think they thought it was going to be complementary rather than him kind of being the primary down there, but still doing the job, working to get the rebounds and the putbacks and stuff like that. Mezak and Measle. I will tell you, if both of those guys are on, I don't know that you can beat Edgewood. I don't.
I agree.
You know what I mean? But when they're not on, that's when they're leaning toward the guys. I think Dallas Patterson, arguably one of the best finishers in the county. Dallas Patterson's athleticism has put Edgewood into ball games, and I think everybody on this panel has seen him do something on the at the rim that we wish we could do.
And especially considering he's a sophomore.
And yeah, he made his free throws against PV. That was it. That was the 1 point advantage.
36 to open the season. Something about Edgewood is, I think we can all agree, there's some sort of magic on that court. Like, just that gymnasium specifically, just something crazy always happens there. It's just, I don't know what other way to put it. There's some sort of voodoo magic going on there.
No, it's a good core nucleus, and even Coach Zimmer was saying how it's always a war when he plays Edgewood. Like it's just a battle. He's got to be ready. So just a good team, a good sound team.
I think this is the first year that I actually noticed the difference in court size. You know what I mean? I can remember talking to head coach over there at Jefferson, Rob Pisano, a couple years ago. And this is in the heart of the Bobby Ray, John Castrilla or Jefferson going against the Cray and Ernst Edgewood teams. They were top of the top. And he talked about how they always struggle on the small court, and thinking to myself, like, what do you mean? Like, it's small court? Like, is there not regulations? So I did note I did learn that there is not regulations. You can have it a little bit smaller or larger either way. And realistically, and I guess we're going to kind of, I'll put this around the panel. How much of a home court advantage does it give you to run that short court, or like in Grand Valley and Jefferson's case, the super large court?
Yeah, when I was watching the Edgewood Jefferson game, that very thought crossed my mind that Edgewood is not used to playing on a larger court like that, and it affects their game. Now, yeah, that 3-point line's still the same distance away from the basket, but because you got more room out there, it just does something to you psychologically. I think that having a bigger court or a different size court does make a difference.
How about you, Scott? What kind of differences or advantages do you see on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The spacing's important. I mean, I think, if you're used to the big court and you go to a small court, it's going to affect you. Your spacing of where you set up, where you pass, it's all different, and vice versa as well. If you're used to that small court and you go to a big court, again, spacing, defenders can slip behind you, that sort of thing. So I think it's an advantage, the size of the court. It should be more regulated.
How about you guys down in the Zoo Crew?
Chad?
You know what? I don't want to hear any excuses. Either get your conditioning in order or don't show up.
Yeah,
No, I'm
court's a court, I guess.
Scott, everything that Scott said, really good point. Yeah, it's going to throw you off, especially when you're used to playing day in and day out on the home court, whether it's practice or you're hosting a game, and then you go into a different atmosphere. Not only that, but the court's different. Yeah, I would see that throwing you off a little bit.
I'll tell you what I've seen in the games that I've covered on the difference is in the press. The larger court, the teams who are used to, I look at a team like Grand Valley who eats at home, because when they put that press on, and if you're used to playing on a short court and you feel like you finally broke the press, you're not even past half court yet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When the girls play, I see they run press the whole game, and that's why you see these scores where they're blowing them out 54-12 is because these girls they can't get the ball out. And you got guys like, ladies like, Jocelyn Kozan, Riley Rowland, who are just quick. They're going to come poke the ball out, steal it away from you because you're getting triple teamed by 5'10" Chloe Turk, and you got 5'8", 5'9" Reese Sims right there too. Grand Valley also just on both sides for the boys and the girls. They just have length, to be honest. And those NAC schools, I just don't think are used to that length.
It helps.
Just a quick stop here as DJ Oakley, our fearless leader here at YSN. Tip of the caps to all you guys. Great for all the hard work you put in every night. Hoosiers. That's a direct throw at me. But no, thank you, DJ, for giving us the chance to get together and do what we love right here on Ohio and the country's best sports network, as far as I'm concerned. We'll move along here to another team that, Scott knows a little bit about these guys, and I'm getting to learn a lot more about these guys this year as they're new to the YSN family that I am so incredibly grateful to have them over there. It's been an amazing year from football season carrying right into basketball season. We're talking about those Eagles over in Geneva. Looking at 8-4, and this is where it matters, folks. It's that 5-1 in the conference as they are currently leading the way for the CVC Lake team. Now, this is a Geneva team, again, that was, I think people were looking for them to rebuild. They were looking for them to rebuild, but I don't know how you'd say a team is going to rebuild when you've got a guy like Caden Proy coming back, who is an absolute certified dog. Yes. Now, granted, I know he played until about 15 minutes before the first basketball game. He was playing football because that's what they do in Geneva. But, you still got those guys coming back. I think, some of the guys who have stepped out, from my point, and again, I'll throw it over to Scott. Antonio Rivera, the first game I go out and watch him, I mean, he was, a night where that kid was shooting at a hula hoop. He couldn't miss. They've got guys like Nate Sizar, Noah Hicks, who is kind of a do-everything guy. But they're gritty. And Geneva, when Geneva plays basketball, it's gritty basketball. They may not be the most athletic. They may not even be the most talented one out there. But every game you play for Geneva, those wins count like double because you have to take it, like Charleston Heston says, from their cold, dead hands.
That's true. Right. So true. They are super gritty. Defensively, they just get after you. Again, they don't allow a lot of points. Best in the conference that way. Noah Hicks, some of the role players, Bryce Pete, Isaiah Ward. I mean, these guys are pushing, getting rebounds. They're setting up the offense, and then they turn it over to their scorers, right? Like you said, Antonio Rivera can shoot the lights out. Nate Cesar, the Sizzler, as I like to call him, that guy can shoot. He really worked on his game since last year and has really improved to just complement with Proy. And just an all-around team unit there. I mean, we don't get a lot of transfers at Geneva. It's a lot of homegrown guys that have just been playing together. And like you said, they're scrappy and ready to go.
Yeah, and I mean, they seem to go on spurts. You look, a 4-game win streak and then a loss. A 2-game win streak and then a loss. But you look at the losses that they've taken, a 75-64 loss to Lakeside. And I'm telling you, if this CVC Lake plays out the way I think it's going to, I think this game right here on January 30th is going to be a packed house and is going to absolutely decide the CVC Lake.
Absolutely. Mark the calendar. That was the game I was talking about where Terry Brown had a block party. I mean, it was an absolute battle back and forth, and I expect nothing but the same for this next matchup, this rematch.
Another team that you guys would have gotten a chance to see over at PV, as Geneva had to go to PV and able to get a win out there in the Warship, which is one of my favorite gymnasium names, by the way.
That's the boathouse.
Yeah, the boathouse. The Warship's the football field, right?
Yeah, Warship's behind in the backyard.
But I mean, you guys got a chance to see this kind of live and in color. What were some of the things you saw with Geneva?
I think they spaced the ball very well. I mean, the ball movement was the crucial for them to actually pull that game out, because if you watch the game, it was a close battle, and obviously a couple calls aside and a couple mistakes, turnovers here and there, that was a 3-point game through and through till about, I don't know, Chad, what would you say, about like 6-7 minutes or 5 minutes left in the fourth? So
Is that the game that I skipped?
that
I had to go home. It was.
So what I saw with Geneva was, Cesar was not hitting all game long. Caden Proy was carrying on the inside. Bryce Pete was, like, again, being a bull in a china shop. But then when going got tough at the end, the ball movement is what won them the game, because they finally were able to get Cesar open for three. And when I say open, I mean he was wide open. And you get that guy to hit one shot, that's it. And he ended up going on a run. And you can't give teams like Geneva that little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel, because in a dark situation, they're going to find a way to gravitate and get out of it. And I mean, athletic, they can all shoot, and the inside game is deceivingly strong. Caden Proy does not look like he's going to go out there and pull down 10 rebounds and bulldoze his way through, but he does.
No, and that's exactly what he does. I think.
Yes.
Geneva.
And here's the other thing, Bryce Pete is fast with the ball. So I mean, you can't sleep on him getting the ball on the perimeter and driving in. So that's what we saw.
Pete doesn't score a ton, but he sets up
Right.
and takes charges and gets rebounds like nobody else out there. It is a team atmosphere for sure.
Bryce Pete has thrown some of the most elite passes I've seen all year on the basketball court. And you talk about a guy, because he's playing a forward for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's undersized. I don't know that you're going to outstrength that kid. See football, see how that goes for you. Like, he's going to get the ball, but it's his ability to make these passes, and he sets up some of these guys. And what it allows Geneva to do, and I think this is where they're thriving. If you look at all of their wins, their games where Geneva has been able to control the pace.
Yes.
And whether they want to play high tempo or low tempo, if they're the ones who decide, you're going to have a hard time. The only times Geneva has struggled this year are teams where, when they've tried to control the pace, it didn't go to their favor. And that's how a team like NDCL just got out in front of them. You know what I mean? They used their talent and made it happen there. But Geneva, like, I think they get overlooked every year in basketball because their football is so good. But, just like football, they're very, very good in basketball. And in some regard, it's almost the exact opposite of what they've got going in PV. I think people forget that PV football is so good because their basketball, for like a 10-year span, has just been dominant. And that works in your benefit all the time.
Culture.
Definitely.
It's culture.
Yes.
And
I think we're beginning to see certain football teams develop that, and basketball teams. I would say, for example, Grand Valley, Justin Turk has really put a great culture in that building, in my opinion. I mean, this is the second straight season in a row where Grand Valley is looking at a 15+1 season and possibly going on a tournament run.
Well, the best part of that is when you institute the culture, that's when you can have realistic expectations. I think we all have expectations of the teams we follow, right? We expect them to go out there. We expect them to win. We expect them to go after loose balls and do everything it takes. But those expectations only happen if your culture is instituted. And sometimes you're in a transition. And one team that is in a transition, and I give them credit because I think they are progressively getting better throughout the year, is the Conneaut Spartans. Conneaut they've had a rough go of it. Losing guys like Chance Loomis, who was an electric scorer, has definitely hurt the program. This, I believe, is the second year for their head coach, Joe Dunn, trying to get. Huh?
It's their first year. It's his first year.
First year for him to be the head coach on this team. And you're looking at a team that's 1-10 with their one win coming against Academy of Urban Science. But I know that we don't do riddance, right? Like, I know at the end of the day that it comes down to who wins and who loses. But, I think this is a team that you do kind of have to talk a little bit about, in some of their losses, how much they've improved. This is a Conneaut team that, played their best basketball against teams like Geneva, like Madison, and have really kind of kept things, and unfortunately didn't go well for them in the first half or the second half, excuse me. But, they've got some guys like Jaden Hook who can play basketball. You've got Jacob Thompson, who was a big-time football player for them. He's a rebounder. He's going to, get layups. And I'll tell you one thing Conneaut's done in every game I've watched is they make their free throws.
Yeah.
They make their free throws.
Fundamentals.
Yeah, I mean, I watched them when they played Jefferson, and they just played gritty. I know Coach Dunn, one of the things he wanted to implement first when he came in was a defensive identity. He said he wanted to have the best defense in the CVC League. And going in the fourth quarter, it was 31-28, Jefferson holding that slim advantage. But Jefferson they knocked their free throws down towards the end of the game, and Conneaut just couldn't find their shot. But I saw a much better Conneaut team than I have seen, in the past season and a half or so. And I think that's really where the turning point has started to come about, was that Jefferson game.
I'll say the same. They were tough against us in the fourth quarter. I mean, we had a relatively large lead, and they chipped away at it. They were gritty. They did not stop. So,
yeah, they've got some guys that can make some plays. And when they start knocking down shots, you look at a guy like Jaden Hook, Perales Cruz, who comes off the bench for them, and he is the perfect microwave player. I mean, he goes out there, immediately gets rebounds, immediately creates additional possessions. It's a team that's developing, and it'll be interesting to see how much more they develop throughout the year. But, we'll go from a team that is developing to a team that's pretty well developed. And that's the Grand Valley Mustangs, who have come out this year, and, I mean, they've lit it up. 12-3, their 3 losses coming, to Harding, Smithville, who is Division 2 or 3, I believe, and Rocky River, another big school. But this is a team that I think what's most impressive to me, and I think we've all gotten to watch Grand Valley at some point this year, so I'm going to get everybody's point of view. Most impressive thing to me about Grand Valley is I have seen them win in different ways throughout different points of this year. I've seen nights where they've gone out and shot the lights out from 3. I've seen nights where they've, locked in on defense, and I've seen nights where they're like, 3's not going, we're going to the paint. That's impressive because those sort of teams are very tough to beat. What about you, James?
As you said, Sam, you hit the hammer on the nail there. I mean, you look at the schedule here. I mean, Coach Shirk, one of the things he wanted to implement this year was a tougher schedule. That last year they won 21-4, I believe, but they played a lot more easier opponents. And when they came to tournament time, they weren't so ready for those opponents per se. So that's what he wanted to implement by getting Smithville on the roster, by getting Perry here, and only losing to Smithville by 7, which. They aren't Division 2 or 3. I think they're a division up, but they were one of the best teams in that division. I think they won 20 games also last year. I mean, Perry was, when I saw them, they were very physical, no stop, no go. I mean, I talked to Sully Schultz after the game. He told me he had bruises all over his body from Perry. I mean, their 2 toughest losses, which was Rocky River and Fairport. That Fairport game doesn't depict what the actual game was. It was literally 2 juggernauts just throwing slugs at each other. Fairport was just able to hit some 3s down the stretch and pull away, and Grand Valley couldn't find their shot. I mean,
you guys need to put Justin Thurk in some crushed velvet.
I'll tell you what, and you know what? A loss to Fairport, and we are strictly going to talk from a basketball perspective. A loss to Fairport is really a good loss. Basketball speaking, they are very good and have been very good all year this year. One of only a couple teams I've seen put up triple digits on the scoreboard. It will be interesting to see what round 2 is going to look like in that game.
January 27th, next Tuesday. Mark your calendars, because looking at that game, Fairport, they're sitting at 9-0. The Mustangs standing at 9-1. If Grand Valley can come away with that game, it's looking like we're going to have a split conference here. But the way Grand Valley's been playing, I mean, they're on a 6-game win streak right now. They're on an absolute heater. I mean, within that 6-game win streak, you got wins against Edgewood on their silent night, which is a huge tradition there. And Perry, obviously, you got a couple good NAC victories. Obviously, one thing that's really going to hurt down the stretch is you do not have Evan Skirdick anymore, and that kid was literally on a heater. I mean, he was having 20. Like I said, the better the team, the better he was. But Carter Turk and Sully Schultz have been stepping up here. I mean, both those are all Ohio guys, and I expect nothing but good for the rest of the season here, as we're going to have a couple county matchups in PV. Looking forward to that one at the Boathouse.
Sorry, get it straight.
And then at Jefferson, usually, Jefferson, great basketball program. It's going to be a great game. As always, obviously, Jefferson ran away with that one last year, and then they finished off their season against St. John. Which, speaking of St. John, I mean, when I watched St. John play Grand Valley game 1, I mean, St. John just played till the fourth. It was just no stop. But Grand Valley, the way they exploded in that third quarter just kind of shows, like, they have guys that can just explode from nowhere. Whether you're talking about Turk hitting his threes, Schultz with his athleticism. It's going to be an interesting stretch to close the season. It's going to be when you got probably the 2 top teams in the NAC right next to him, being Fairport and PV. Obviously, right after Matthews, which I've heard good things about them.
Yeah, I mean, they're it is. Grand Valley is anymore. It's starting to become a standard. This is what's to be expected, right? How about any thoughts on your end, Larry, on Grand Valley? I don't know if you've seen them or not.
We did call that game. We had that doubleheader with the girls and the boys on the 30th of December, and kind of what we were talking about. Grand Valley took out to a big lead, and then toward the end, 20. I think the Warriors scored 25 points in the fourth quarter, but still came up short, by 4 points. But it's the same thing. It's the same kind of thing, and you got to hand it to Grand Valley. They played tough the whole game.
How about the Zoo Crew?
I think what James said earlier. I think basketball is ingrained at Grand Valley, and it has been for a long time. And you're starting to see an even bigger resurgence. This team is very, very fundamentally sound, very well rounded. Like you said, Sam, they're winning games in different ways. It's not working on the outside. Get the ball in the paint and make it work there. They're a tough team. Led by one of the. Turk's only a junior, right?
Yeah, it's a very young team.
He is an extremely talented junior basketball player. He's got a really good team around him, and I think that allows him to kind of play a little more carefree. And the more carefree he is, the better he is.
Yeah, they play unselfishly.
Yeah,
and I think that is the key to anybody becoming a juggernaut. I mean, you look at Geneva; they're unselfish. One game it's Proy, the next game it's Cesar. It's the same thing with Rivera. Rivera had a heck of a game to start the season. You look at Grand Valley. In the box score, one day it's Turk, the next day it's Schultz. It was Skirdick. I mean, everybody gets their moment to shine, and that makes it tougher for teams to game plan because you don't know who you're focusing in on. So
there's a lot more mouths to feed this year compared to last year when you could say you have more role players in that lineup. But Grand Valley has 2 bona fide, a dynamic duo to say the least, in Schultz and Turk. But
you have chemistry that allows that to happen and allow people to be like, you know what, you can shine tonight, you can shine tomorrow, and nobody's getting upset, which is, you want that.
I'm definitely starting to see more guys, younger guys too, such as Liam Hart and Alex Chudzik step up off the bench. And now you have Cooper Polizga in that starting lineup. So I'm definitely seeing more guys step up here down the stretch rather than the beginning of the season.
How about you, Scott? Any thoughts on Grand Valley?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to what we've been talking about all night. It's culture and it's coaching. You know, the reason that they're beating with people, a different person every night, is because the coach is finding those mismatches and those matchups, and he's exploiting those, and it's putting them in a great position to win. You know, if their star isn't on, they go to the next one. You know, that's just smart coaching and a good culture that they all work together and play together as a unit, and it shows on the win and loss column. I mean, they are dominating their area, you know, just a great team.
Yeah, and I think that what you guys are talking about with that, like, you know, building off what George was saying about, you know, guys will say, all right, you can do it tonight. You can do it tonight. You know, having the ability to say you can, but what comes in handy even more than that is when these are high school kids and every high school kid has had an off night. There's always someone there to pick up the slack, and you never see the blame game. And I think the biggest compliment I can give Grand Valley from the 4 or 5 games I've watched them this year is I can probably count on one hand how many bad passes I've seen that team throw. There's a lot, and that shows you a lot. These kids play together. They trust each other. The chemistry is there. You know, with teams trying to get to know each other, you're going to see a lot of passes out of bounds. You're going to see cuts. You know, somebody's trying to catch a cutter, and they can't get it there. But they are kind of locked in and tuned in, and that's leading to wins. And it's fun to watch. It really is. But, you know, we'll talk about, we talk about Grand Valley. Let's keep it in the NAC. As we will move over to a team that I'm pretty familiar with in the St. John Heralds. So this is a St. John Heralds team that, you know, again, rebuilding, losing some guys, hoping to find their starting 5 as well as build the core. You know, the hopes were high at the beginning of this season. St. John had about 33 kids go out for the basketball team, which, you know, allowed them to have a certified JV and a certified freshman team, which anybody who knows basketball knows if you've got those 2 teams, even if you're not great this year, it's going to come. You know, things are developing. They've got some guys, unfortunately, you know, that transfer rule, which we will do an around the horn on that at the end of the show. That transfer rule coming back to kind of bite them in the butt as they're losing one of their top guys in Jack Collins. You know, this is a team that has played really well in spurts. They've got excellent guard play in Chase Newsome and Gus Petros. They've got some solid forward play out of guys like Donnie Crawford, who happens to be the only senior on the team. So this is a team that's basically going to be the same 5 coming back next year. And what sticks out for me with St. John is the youth overall. I mean, they've got some guys that are just sophomores that are getting big time minutes after playing 4 quarters of JV basketball. You know, Tyrese Strait sticks out to me. Connor Edison is another kid who sticks out to me. But, you know, the offense kind of lives and dies through the play of guys like Chase Newsome, who's a primetime player, and Gus Petros. You know, and another guy who I'm overlooking is the addition this year is Augie Pugliese. Augie Pugliese, who we all love the 3-point game. Everybody does. We love to call a good 3-pointer. The mid-range game that kid possesses is really what kind of sets him apart on the court. You know, we'll go reverse order here on this one. Scott, any thoughts on St. John?
Unfortunately, I haven't get to catch them much. I've just been watching them in the stats, and from what I see, they're just trying to rebuild and get there. But I haven't physically been able to see them yet.
How about you, George?
I mean, I was impressed when we played them early on. You know, Newsome was scrappy. He was playing tough, you know, face guarding defense. Like he did what he had to do. Petros is an athlete. Collins was very impressive underneath. And that was a nice matchup between him and Chase Geisinger. And I mean, it would be nice to have him for the latter part of the season for sure. But I mean, you've got a good nucleus of guys and athletes and scorers that I think that St. John's next year, you know, you get another person up there to rise to the occasion, you know, Carter Beck or somebody else, Pugliese. You might have a juggernaut there in the wings that you just don't even know about.
How about Chad?
I'm with George. I pretty much share the same opinion. So, yeah, I mean, that building phase sometimes can be difficult, but I think that's where you find those guys that can step into leadership roles and really take over a team, kind of be the conduit between the coach and the players. And I think St. John's on the verge of that. Kind of like George said, you get one more piece and, it's go time.
Larry?
Well, okay, so we Edgewood played them, and Edgewood played a really good game. And then one of the better games I think they played all year. But on St. John's half, they really had a good third quarter. I'm looking at your article here because I don't remember specifically, but it says 23 points in the third quarter, so, luckily the Warriors were out in front, but no, they obviously played scrappy the whole game. And in that game, Collins had 20 points. Petros had 14. Warriors ended up having only 5 players scoring, but they were enough. Had 3 guys in double figures. But no, it's surprising, I guess, that to see their record where it is. It's and again, I don't have a lot to compare with other than what we've seen them do, in the game against Edgewood.
How about you, James?
I got to see him twice. I got to see him in the very first game of Grand Valley season. I was on the call with you when they played St. John, and then I was a spectator when they played Edgewood. They got some guys out there, definitely, like you said, Newsom, Collins. I think what they're really missing, and it's a closer, like George said. If you could get that one guy that's just, maybe it's there, maybe it's Newsom, maybe it's a guy coming up, you don't know. But, with the young team, you may not have that closer yet, and I think as the season goes on, we're going to be able to pinpoint that guy, and by the time next year rolls around, we're going to see that guy that can come out here and close those close games, such as the Edgewood game, losing by 7. Against Grand Valley, midway through the third quarter, they were only trailing by 5 before Grand Valley just turned on the Jets and took away. But, maybe it's Collins, because I've seen nothing but good from that kid. So, it's going to be interesting, but I think they're going to kind of go down through the season here, play some tough, easier matchups. And I think when tournament time comes around, we could start to see maybe a version of St. John we'll get to see next year.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a Browns fan, but it's a wait till next year type of attitude there. You know what I mean? But moving right along, we're going to talk about the PV Lakers, who stand at 6-6 this year. And interesting enough, just like St. John, the boys and the girls with the exact same record. I'll throw this over to George and Chad here just in a minute. But, PV, from my standpoint, I'm having trouble putting my finger on them. This is a team that on the nights where they're winning, PV looks like business as usual. And, they're getting 3-pointers, they're getting rebounds, the defense is there. And then they have nights where it sometimes seems chaotic and you don't know where the points are coming from, and even maybe if chemistry is off just a little bit. You've got a guy in Geisinger who stepped up this year for them, and he had to, because they're missing a player that, if you talk to Coach Shantz, that they were counting on being their guy this year. He was supposed to come in this year and be the guy. And Geisinger, in true Laker fashion, said next man up, and he stepped up, and I think he's played that role well. You've got the youngsters like Dubik who have come out here and baptism by fire, because, the NAC, if nothing else, is a physical little conference, and you are going to maybe that's why foul trouble has been foul shots have been so hard this year, is because you get rocked before you get to that line. But it's really interesting to watch PV, because there are games where I'm like scratching my head, like, they've either won closer than I thought they should have, or they've lost games where I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting to see guys who, you know, you've got a certified scorer in Britton. I mean, Britton, if you line him up in the county, you know, if this was the shootout rules, you know, he's going to be a first pick, you know, for one of these teams out there. But, you know, at times PV has struggled, which is interesting. But one thing I can tell you about Shantz is he'll have the boys ready by the time it's win or go home. We'll go reverse order and we'll end with the PV guys here. We'll start with Scott.
Yeah, I just what I see from PV is just like what we've been talking about a lot of these teams in the area, just a step or two away, scrappy, could win on any given night. Some nights they're there, sometimes they're not. Just a good, tough team that nobody wants to see long term or going into that tournament. I mean, they could beat you on any given night. They've got the talent. I think through the rest of the season here, they'll just work and put it all together. I'm looking forward to what they can do.
How about you, Larry?
Well, you know, I saw them. I think it was the first home game of the season, and was a real barn burner. Edgewood pulled out a 1-point win. This is the first game where we just saw our sophomore play, Dallas Patterson, and he did everything. He had 36 points in that game. But in that game, you had Dubik, Britton, and Geisinger all in double figures. Close game throughout. And, you know, it just turned out in Edgewood's favor. But, you know, I can't say a whole lot about the team per se, but that game was an exciting game to watch.
James?
No, I got to see PV twice. I got to see them in the Lakefront Classic. That was when they played Edgewood, and then obviously when they came over the Grand Valley. As you said, you know, they had some head-scratching losses, but also some great wins. For, you know, as George says, erase the Maplewood game from your memory, because I thought that was the girls' score when I saw it.
We didn't play them.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
But you know, that's the thing with PV. They're going to give you a Lakefront Classic. I think one of the things when I talk about PV is they are a dangerous fourth quarter team, to say the least. I mean, against Edgewood was leading around 7 to 8 points. I think they pulled away to a double-digit lead at one point. Then PV came right back in the fourth, took a 5-point lead with 2 minutes to go. Grand Valley, they were up about 20 on them the whole game, I believe. So, right, Chad?
It was rough go on the first half.
And then that fourth quarter hit, and it was go time. I mean, Justin Britton, he is one of the best players in this county, yes, but he's not going out there and scoring 30 and then having a 12-point game. What he's doing is he's consistently scoring around 20 points, and that's why I don't think people bring him up a lot. He's like a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander type of character, where Shea Gilgeous-Alexander isn't going out there dropping 50, then the next time dropping 15 points. He's dropping 30 points consistently. That's how I think of Britton, you know. Obviously, I believe he's the all-time record leader for three-pointers in the season as a freshman, right? And, I mean, he's had a great sophomore season so far, but I'm definitely going to need to look at him to have bigger games and hear his name more down the stretch if PV wants to keep contending within this NAC conference.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with you there, James. I think it's something where, you know, maybe that's where PV needs to get to is where you can look at a guy like Britton and, hey, we got 20 out of you. We need 25, and it's easier said than done, but nobody knows them better than these two guys right here. Let's hear what they got to say.
Go first.
All right, I'll go first.
You're up.
So, you know, Sam, you hit on it, and I think it really affected a lot of the players not having, you know, their guy that they were looking to start the season off. But, you know, we're not going to make any excuses here. And like another point that you made, and you're right on, is Chase Geisinger. I can't say a bad thing about this kid. He's putting in the work. You can tell he's grown from season to season with what he's doing under the hoop. I think the name of the game for this team is consistency, and they're having a hard time finding it because if you look on paper, this is a new team. It is a brand new team. You've got a freshman with Noah coming in who hasn't played with these guys before. You've got at least three seniors with Chase, and well, we've lost one, unfortunately, but you got Chase and you've got Trent Harvey as our senior leaders, and Trent has been asked to do a lot more. And you know, Trent is one of those guys that goes. He's going to do whatever coach tells him to do. He's going to do it, and he's working his butt off. And you've got to have that guy. But when you look at it, you have one true big man starter in Geisinger, and he has been asked to do way more than I think what was expected of the season. Now, that having been said, you got a lot of good support players, but they're young and they haven't played a lot together. I mean, they have coming up, but in the varsity spotlight, with different names and different faces, you don't have that consistency yet. And so you see that from night to night. And then when it happens, I think there's another level of maturity that hasn't set in yet. They don't know how to deal with that adversity just yet. But once they do, and they're able to move on from it, forget it. There's a lot of talent. I think there are role players, but I also think that we haven't seen the pinnacle of what some of these guys can do just yet. And I don't know if it's for fear of, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I hear it from Sean's all the time. Just go play. Just go play. Don't think so much. Just play. But all in all, really good things coming up. And, it's unfortunate a few of the setbacks that we've had, but I've been happy with the good games that these guys have had. And I look for them to turn that into consistency and see it be sustainable.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope
I mean, everything that Chad said is spot on. I mean, it's a team that it's been shaken up a couple times. And when you're going in a week before thinking you've got your dudes, and then it's like, nope, we're going to pull the rug out. And now you gotta figure out, all right, how are we going to replace that? And you're changing identities up. And then again, end of the season, midway point, you lose another cog in the wheel. This team hasn't been able to develop a chemistry. That's the one thing that I've noticed. They'll go and they'll have glimpses of it, and then they'll have glimpses of a horror movie. And you're thinking, what on earth are we watching? So I think it's a matter of, like Chad was saying, getting to know each other, their playing styles, and we still don't know the concluding team, like the storybook team that we're going to see at the end of the season. I still is yet to be written. I think we're going to find that out here over the next 5 or 6 games. But they've got a lot of talent. They certainly do. Britton's a talented scorer. You've got, again, Dubik's a talented kid, and he's only going to continue improving, getting better. Geisinger is still, it's crazy to say, but he's still learning and improving that role. So they can either choose to go on a run, and then they might do it, or they can choose to allow the things that have been affecting them to kind of take them down. And I think that there's a good group of kids that are gonna offer the ladder and try to go on a run here at the end of the season. And we're excited. I mean, we had a hell of a call the other night. A day after, it was like like I said, a bloodbath in that movie, in a dream that never happened. So, but it's fun. It's fun to watch them, and you know what? I mean, the future here is bright. It's just how we're going to get there. So.
Yeah, and we'll talk about another team that is developing, and I think we can all, as a panel, agree that nobody is up against more controversy this year than the Lakeside Dragons. I mean, you're talking about a team that does not have a home court. At times is scurrying to try to find an area to practice in. Amongst all the other things with, transfers and this and that every school is kind of dealing with. This is a school that essentially has no home. And I do want to tip my cap to the administrators and the decision makers in that district. I think they're doing a phenomenal job with the cards that they've been dealt. Making sure that these kids got back into school, and they're trying to gain as much normalcy as they possibly can. But Lakeside this year, when you talk about basketball, the all I can think of is a diesel engine, because this was as cold a start as you could possibly get. I mean, they go out there and they go 0-4 to start off this year. They get into a tight one in overtime game in their first home game, which was at St. John against Willoughby South. But then they kind of get their feet under them, and they're getting some wins to the tune of really going 7-7. This is a 500 basketball team. Talent is premium on that team right now. I mean, they've got some guys that can just flat out play basketball. Jerez Osborne, who's, over 6 foot tall, gets to the hoop, can score from the mid-range, can knock down the three-pointer. I think people were watching for him this year. I think he was the guy everybody kind of had eyes on. Guys who I don't think people were watching this year, Draquan Bradley. Bradley seemingly came out of nowhere.
Yes.
And has become a certified scoring threat for this team. Tristan Ovak just the other night, 23, 24 points against Jefferson, knocking down 4 3-pointers. They've got Lewis and Jack Flores, action and chaos, the twins. I love watching those guys play. They're going after every loose ball, and Lakeside is really starting to develop what I believe is a gritty personality, and I think that's what teams are expecting now when they see Lakeside. But don't mistake grittiness for lack of skill, because this is a very, very skilled team and quietly one of the better teams in the area. We'll start with you, James.
As you said, Sam, they had that slow start starting 0-4. I think coming into this year, I've had many conversations with people about Lakeside. I told them, watch out for them. They reacquired Terry Brown. He used to play for them. He went to Jefferson for a couple years, played with
Reacquired, he does.
Yeah,
Reacquired.
Played with Tabetta. So, he had some experience playing on a winning culture like that. He came back to Lakeside. Because it was the last year, they kind of had a struggling season, but towards the end, you started to hear whispers about Jerez Osborne and all those guys over there. And, he wanted to come back home and he wanted to play for them. So I think what they were really missing those first couple games was they had the talent. They just didn't have the culture in place yet. I think getting a win over a team like Wycliffe, which they got, turned into the upset of the year so far, in my opinion, was over Geneva. Nobody going into that game was expecting Lakeside to come up with that victory, as Geneva was starting to get their feet going, and it just felt like Lakeside took the carpet right out from underneath them and really has caused chaos within the CVC Lake. They don't have Terry Brown now, but I've noticed that Jerez Osborne has been stepping up big time. I mean, he scored 30 in their first game without him. I'm expecting obviously Draquan Bradley, the emergence of him. I'm expecting Lakeside to be dangerous as they can get down the stretch here, and to say the least, it's going to be a fun ride if whoever is covering them.
Larry.
Well, okay, as you probably gathered, I'm probably the least informed on this panel. And all I can do is, I can tell you about the games that I've seen, and the Edgewood games at home. And I was a little surprised. That Edgewood was able to pull this win out. They won 67-57, and it was a gritty game. It was a tough, gritty game where for Edgewood, it was Measle, Triplin, and Patterson again, especially toward the end of the game that they came out. But, Terry Brown, you just see the talent there, okay? You really do. Jerez Osborne, he was an Edgewood guy for a while. I know him more from the football field, but, they're scrappy. And again, it's Edgewood, it's Lakeside. You're going to get that kind of game.
Chad and George.
I like Lakeside. I think that they're a team that's still they've yet to hit their ceiling. They play long. They've got another team with good ball movement, and they get hit from the outside. And talking about that inside play, they're going to be a force. I do not want to play Lakeside here if I'm coming down towards tournament time. But yeah, we were impressed. They played pretty well from a size perspective, at least.
Yeah, no, they surprised me. I thought they played extremely well. They looked good. No, I'm with George. I wouldn't want to play them around tournament time either.
Scott.
Yeah, they're a scary team. I mean, everyone knows Osborne and everybody knows, Terry Brown, but it's those other players you were talking about, the Flores kid, and Bradley is a bona fide star. I mean, that kid does it all, and I think he's only a junior if I'm not mistaken.
Sophomore.
Sophomore, even worse. I mean, just a bright future ahead of him. That kid has a smooth stroke, and he's got that team playing well together. I think just like we've all said, it's a scary team that nobody wants to play because there is a lot of talent on that team. Long and lean, and they rebound well, and they shoot well. It's very, very, very scary. So, and again, handed us our first loss in the conference, and what a game it was. I mean, it was back and forth, but I never felt like they weren't in control of the game all the way through, to be honest. It was close at times. At times they weren't winning, but it did feel like they were in control. And I think that just shows you what a deep, good team that they are.
All right, those are our county teams that we reviewed. We're going to do a couple rapid fire back and forth here with the panel. We're going to ask a couple maybe controversial questions. Who knows? We might stir some pots. But we're going to start off right at the top with what team do you think can make the most surprising tournament run, if any? And I'll start with Jay.
For me, obviously I'm not going to say Grand Valley or Geneva because people are kind of expecting those two teams to get a dub or two within that tournament. For me, I'm going to have to go with the team we were just talking about in Lakeside. The way that they're playing, going to be playing down the stretch here can really show what kind of force it could be in the tournament. Unfortunately, last year they had to match up with a 5-star athlete in Marcus Johnson in Garfield Heights. Let's hope that doesn't happen again this year. But, I mean, if their record can be, obviously they already got 7 wins under their belt, I'm sure they'll be playing a team that they can go more, point for point with. And I wouldn't be surprised if they can get a win or two in this tournament.
Larry.
I think that just because of, and we're talking county team, just because of their experience that they've experienced on the football field, I got to go with Geneva. I really think that they got the same crew as they had on the football field, between Pete and Proyer and I'm sure there's others out there. I don't know their names, but I think that I would expect them, if anyone, to make a run to beat Geneva.
George.
I think if you're talking surprising run, I'd like to say the homer call, PB, but I mean, which I think that we could, but I think a surprising tournament run. I think Lakeside is who I would consider the dark horse in this. I think they can probably rip off a couple of them.
Scott.
Yeah, I mean our Eagles are sitting nice. They're a very, very good team, but I'm with George on that. If we're talking surprise team, like team we didn't see coming, I would definitely say it was Lakeside with all their turmoil and all the challenges they have. But Coach Zimmer's just got these guys playing tough in Geneva. I think they're going to make a deep run as well. And I'm just excited to see it all unfold, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm going to go – well, you guys all stole my thunder. So now I know next time I need to go first. But, I think Lakeside is going to be my surprise team. I do think that they're going to surprise people. I think they're going to win, like George said, I think they're going to win a couple games. But for surprise tournament runs, I think Grand Valley is going to go further than they did last year. I don't – there's something about this Grand Valley team. There's something about testing yourself during the season and out kicking your coverage, during the season before it's win or go home. It's going to set them up for a potentially long tournament run. I don't know that I'm going to call them a state champion or anything like that, but I do think that they can win upwards of 3 games, maybe 4 here in the tournament. So we'll go one last tournament or rapid fire question here. Chad's back.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man.
So rapid fire. There's been a lot of talk over the last couple of years about a county conference. Now we're talking about two big conferences in the NAC, which is actively trying to grow, and we've got the CVC, which may or may not be the largest conference in Ohio. But people have talked about a potential county league that would be, probably big school, little school, something along the lines of Geneva, Madison, Lakeside, potentially Harvey in one half, with Conneaut, Jefferson, and Edgewood deciding who's going to be in the small half, St. John, Grand Valley, and PV evening out the other side. I'm a big fan of it. I've been saying this for years. That's my side of it. But I'm going to ask you guys rapid fire, yes or no? James.
I mean, I completely agree. I think the competition we all need is right here in Asheville County. I think each team, can compete with each other. Obviously, I think there should be two sides. Should have a small and a big school side, but I think there should definitely be crossover games between the two. Obviously we've seen teams like Geneva, teams have competed with them more. Usually that's the top dog in football. But I think the competition we need is right here in Asheville County, and obviously we need a couple cooperations. I think with Madison and Harvey, which they have been in leagues with us in the past, and I think they would do so, is cooperate with us.
Larry.
Okay, now how many teams do you have in Ashtabula County?
8. So you want 10. You want 10 to function.
Well, everybody plays some non-conference games, and that's always nice to do. Just my opinion is, I think there's enough parity that the Ashtabula County teams could make it interesting. Only Ashtabula County. That's my thought.
Chad.
Yes, I'm in. I think it's great. Anything, the way that I look at it, anything to get the county schools to interact a little more with one another, and frankly, to make each other better. Yes, do it.
George.
Yes, absolutely. I'm all for it. I think the talent, this season alone has proven that small guys can play with the big guys. Everybody's beating each other up. We're all walking around with black and blue eyes. It's a given to do this. Yes, go for it.
Scott.
I say yes. Some of the best football in the country is played here in Ohio, and why not showcase what we have in our neck of the woods and have everybody just competing at a high level against each other? I think it's fantastic.
All right, guys, final rapid fire. We're going to go 3 strikes and you're out. All right, end of the ball game. Game-winning 3, game-winning dunk. Which one hits harder? Reverse order, starting with Scott.
Man, I just watched somebody from NDCL dunk it in live time, and it was so exciting. I got to go with the dunk. Over the shot. I'm going dunk.
George.
Well, speaking to that, we've had the exclamation point dunk on us against Geneva. Exciting for them, not for us. I'm a big guy on the 3 ball. I love seeing a game-ending 3.
Chad.
3 ball, and I'm going to tell you why. Because there's the distance between when it rolls off the fingertips and it's in the air, where everybody holds their breath. With a dunk, you don't
Magical.
get any suspense.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
That one shining moment.
In the games that I've called this year, I have yet to see a dunk. And let's, as you would call it, how about a 3 ball from the feather?
Jay.
I've seen some dunks this year. Sully Schultz can hammer one down, but for me, it's a 3 ball, man. That's where we get those iconic bangs, and that's just me. A 3 ball, I think the crowd pops insane.
Simply based on the fact that I'll never be able to do it, I'm going with game-winning dunk as a much bigger factor, and that's going to be mine. With it. Thank you guys all for joining tonight. It was a really fun night to just kind of walk our way through county hoops. Lots of big things coming, lots of big games coming. Hopefully we can get some cooperative weather in the next coming days. I know that most of the games have already been canceled. for tomorrow. But we'll be right back on the horse or in the ship or flying with the eagle, here very, very soon. And it's all going to be on your home for ysnlive.com. For Scott Demos, George Dubik, Chad Paul, Larry Jennings, James Westover, my name is Sam Torres. This is the 440 Sports Show on your home for high school sports, ysnlive.com. Thank you guys all for spending your night with us, and good luck to all of our county teams as we get through the second half of the year.
This for the fofo. This for the fofo. For the city in the back roads, got a whole county full of them goats. All from the fofo and let's go. Hey, it's just for Beulah County. Yeah, right on your head like a bounty. Said I'm from Beulah, they know I'm from Beulah, so let me just go talk about my surroundings. Shout out them Eagles that's out in Geneva, them Lakers, oh yeah, that's Palmerton and Valley. We from the football chasing these goals. If you in the way, you get taken out proudly. And Jefferson soaring with Falcon. Said that you working, you ain't really working. You see that we working, our hands got a callus. Putting in reps till we moving some mountains. Edgewood got warriors, they won't allow it. Me, I bleed green and gold, they know defeating no dragons who run the whole city. You wildin'. And they really bout it, yeah. And next we gon' go to Grand Valley. Work like a horse and don't show no remorse. So opponents keep coming, we stack them and pile them, yeah. And kinda got flooded with Spartans. As soon as they pull up on game day, we park them. Cause we number one in that spot, ain't a bargain. Man, shout out St. John, they be ballin' like Harden. This for the fofo. This for the fofo. This for the fofo.